So welcome friends, what if Godlike Naruto destroys everyone in village of Ben of 10 clan movie? Naruto. But the violent clash of techniques, a demonized Naruto and curse mark bearing Sasuke met in the air above the valley of the end. A whirlwind of red surrounded Naruto, blew around Sasuke, and they were engulfed in a bright light. Then the most peculiar thing happened, the light turned into a black sphere that slowly grew, obstructing the waterfall and soon destroying the statues of Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. Then white lines raced across the surface and it exploded in light again, revealing both boys, completely normal, unconscious on the valley floor. Then a green light flashed in the sky into the valley and Naruto suddenly disappeared. Not a second after the light faded, Kakashi appeared in the valley and spied Sasuke, but no Naruto. He looked around in panic. "Naruto, Naruto." He yelled, hoping the explosion just sent the boy flying a couple feet and that he wasn't gone or dead. He summoned his dog pack and ordered them to search out Naruto. He waited for half an hour, tying up Sasuke when the dogs dispersed, knowing the traitor would cause a problem when he woke up. When the dogs returned, all summer, he knew the truth. Naruto was gone. Grief-stricken at his failure to his sensei, he picked up Sasuke, dismissed the pack, and made his way back to Konoha. Elsewhere. "Ugh, what hit me?" Naruto groaned as he arose from his sleep, rubbing his throbbing head. Looking around, he noticed he was in some sort of dark room, a tray of surgical tools next to the examination table he was on, and some weird black ball above him, green circuitry lines emanating from the silver-edged symbol of an angular green Hercules on a black background. "I see you're awake," an aged voice emanated from seemingly nowhere, shocking Naruto. "Who's there? Where are you? Where am I?" he asked fervently, preparing to dodge any form of attack if this was an ambush. "Relax, boy, I'm not your enemy, nor will I ever be, I'm down here," the voice explained, Naruto turning his head down to a tiny platform that floated next to the table. The tiny, gray creature stood on it, aided by a cane. He had an almost frog-like head with wide green eyes with rectangular pupils, a long, white beard that touched the floor, and it wore green robes with black trim. "Whoa, what are you?" Naruto asked wide-eyed. "I am an alien called a Galvan. I hail from Galvan Prime in the Andromeda system. Your planet Earth is thousands of light years from my home. In the galaxy are various creatures that are greater or lesser than humans. It's all a matter of perspective. I have been keeping my eye on you, Naruto, for an experiment I have in mind," the creature said. Naruto's eyes widened at the influx of information of life beyond the stars, then narrowed at the mention of an experiment. "Why should I consent to being experimented on like a guinea pig? And what is this experiment, anyway?" he asked cautiously. He sure as hell wasn't going to say yes, but it won't hurt to know. "My brother, Asmioth, and I had a rivalry for inventions. He wanted to create the ultimate device that held the DNA of all aliens. I wanted to make the ultimate lifeform that had the DNA of all aliens. I was banished from Glaven Prime when I was found with various blood samples of creatures, and the council assumed the worst. My brother fought for my sake, but it was for naught. And I was cast to the stars. However, I haven't done this experiment on others because of the very same reason I believe you are the perfect subject. So many changes would tear someone from the inside out, but as I watched you, I've found many things that will ensure your safety. The demon in your gut, he gives you advanced regeneration that would be useful to survive the process. And the natural resilience of your clan, combined with your indestructible will to survive, and you are the perfect candidate, and why should you say yes? Simple. You can use this power to save those precious to you. I know that is the most important thing to you. After this experiment, I will ask you for one favor, the final phase of my bet with my brother, then you may do what you wish. I will not take the changes away. I will not keep you as my puppet. I will not limit you in any way. So what do you say?" he asked, holding his tiny hand out. Naruto took a while to think over the proposition. In the existence of space, there may be powerful creatures impossibly strong and have that strength to protect everyone he cared about. Nodding to the Galvan, he extended his hand and shook the creature's tiny hand with his finger. "So what's your name?" "You know mine, but I don't yours," he asked. "My name is Merlin, and thank you for agreeing to this, and don't worry, I know you hate needles, so you'll be unconscious, and your nerves will be dulled so they won't hurt you. Now please lay down so we may begin," he asked of him. Nodding, Naruto laid back down, looking up at the machine above him, and closed his eyes as it emanated waves on a certain frequency that knocked him out and dulled his sense of touch, and the process began. 3 hours later. Naruto finally roused from his sleep, clutching his head again as the influx of so many foreign things invaded his mind, so many senses, so much knowledge he wasn't privy to before, such strange worlds flashed before his eyes, it was almost overwhelming, but his strong will allowed him to remain conscious. So he hung his legs over the side of the bed Merlin put him in after the operation and attempted to stand and take his first step, only to shoot across the room and slam into the wall in a blue blur. "Ow," he whispered, but it echoed to a deafening degree, shattering all glass in the room and creating spiderweb cracks in the ceiling. His eyes widened at that. then glowed green and lasers shot out, shooting through the ceiling. After that, he just slowly and calmly got back up and went back to the bed, laid down, and just stayed still, with a subconscious wish of being restricted, so he didn't fuck up anything else. His body was suddenly wrapped in dark brown bandages, turning him into a certifiable mummy, freaking out for a few seconds. Naruto realized this was for the best and stopped wriggling, waiting for Merlin. After about 5 minutes, Naruto having fallen asleep after 2, Merlin arrived in a comically tiny door in the bottom of the normal door. Seeing the wrapped up Naruto, broken glass, a damaged ceiling and wall, he knew the boy woke up and his powers went haywire. It was to be expected. He jumped onto the bed and walked over the Naruto's head, tapping it with his cane. "Naruto, wake up," he said. Watching as the boy woke up but now suffered the problem of the bandages restricting him and he didn't know how to make them go away. "Just relax and they'll go away," he advised. Taking his advice, Naruto slowed his breathing and the bandages receded. "What happened when I woke up?" Naruto asked after making sure his voice wouldn't shatter any eardrums, if Merlin even had any. "Well, from what I can tell, your subconscious human nature to rush everywhere activated the speed of a kinoceleron. The impact with the floor jarred the sonic waves of a sonoerosion right before the I-beams of an amphibian, and your subconscious need to be restrained so you wouldn't smash anything else activated the bandages of a Thepkufan," Merlin explained. Naruto gave him a blank look, not knowing what any of those things were, even after all that stuff flooded his mind when he first woke up. "Alien stuff," Merlin amended. Naruto seemed satisfied with that and nodded. "So how do I control this?" he asked. "I estimate it will take almost 1100 years to master all 1 million species abilities," he started, only to be interrupted by Naruto's outburst. 1100 years, a million species, he yelled, bug-eyed. How the hell was he supposed to accomplish that? "Relax, I have a special chamber that can help you. My father created it, the hyperbolic time chamber, and for every year inside there, it will be a day out here. In 3 years, you will have accomplished about 1095, 75 years of training, and don't worry about aging and death. Several species have a concept of eternal youth. Once you reach a certain age, you will not age or suffer disease. You can still be killed, but again, several species allow several biological defenses to save you, as well as battle capabilities you will learn in the chamber. Also," he started, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a tiny cube, "while you were unconscious, I sent out several drones to scan the jutsu of this world, according to the scanners. This holds the information of apparently every shinobi technique in your world. This will be used in your training as well, and don't worry, I also sent a message to your leader, Tsunade Senju, to explain your situation, and she has given her consent to allow you to be on leave for the next 3 years. Are you ready to begin?" he asked. Naruto took a minute to think this over, then nodded. He followed Merlin to the entrance to the hyperbolic time chamber, a plain pair of doors, opening them at Merlin's behest, since it didn't have a Galvan-wide door, a mini doggy door, and looked inside, finding a massive white abyss, a mansion in the distance flanked by 2 giant Herglasses. He shrugged and waved goodbye to Merlin, knowing he wouldn't see him for about 1000 years, but 3 to the Galvan. Closing the doors behind him, he somehow found himself inside the mansion already, surrounded by machines that were there to aid his training and provide him with information on the various species he now held within him. A camera on an extending arm came close to him and scanned him. Scanning. Species. Unknown. Designation. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Query. Subject has DNA of 1,087 species of organisms. I was designed to help you understand these creatures. Shall we begin? It asked. Naruto nodded and began his personal hell of training. Learning to master the several species was a task, even after he learned the secret of the Kage Bunshin. When the clones dispelled, their memories returned to him, and that counted for jutsu chakra control and interesting quirks to aid training, but the muscle memory of using his powers didn't transfer, so he had to do those himself. The Kyuubi aided him in his training, helping him master his Yaki, since this new development in his body made him the strongest vessel he could ever have. He also taught him some demon techniques unique to foxes. His alien forms and powers were incredibly amazing. From the minuscule Galvan to the gargantuan Tokustar, aliens came in all shapes and sizes, some more deadly than others. While his skills and body improved, his mind and mentality did not falter. He saw the tragic truths of his life. Sakura would never love him. She was just a useless fangirl that threw herself at an unfeeling prick that he once called a brother who tried to kill him. Well, at first he detested Kakashi for training Sasuke more than him and Sakura. But he understood the Jounin's position under the council. Those bastards hated him and held the Uchiha on a pedestal. The villagers were narrow-sighted fools, and he finally realized his heritage as the son of the Yondaime Hokage, the same man who doomed him to this life. At first he was angry, but he grew to understand his situation on that night 12 years ago. As a side note, he asked a Kyuubi, who he learned was named Kurama, why he attacked Konoha. Kurama explained he was under the control of a Manjikyu Sharingan of a man the elemental nations thought long dead. Uchiha Madara, the bastard trapped him in a genjutsu after ripping him out of his mother just after Naruto was born and sixed him on Konoha, but Minato quickly broke their bond and sealed half the Kyuubi's chakra with himself in the Shinigami's stomach and half in Naruto. Kurama proved to be a valuable friend and ally in this case, and Naruto vowed he would get revenge for him on Madara for causing so much suffering, for all the people that died that day, for manipulating Kurama like a puppet, and for dooming him to a life of ostracism, but the anger did not consume, and he came out on top, for the better. For 1,000 years, Naruto trained in jutsu and alien powers. He had stopped aging when he turned 18, and he and Kurama were completely fused when he mastered the ninth tail. Naruto was essentially the new Kyuubi. Time came and went, and the day came when Naruto would exit the chamber. Approaching the double doors came a brand new Naruto, tall, lean, built, overall better. From his laughable height of almost 5 feet, he was now 6'7", void of body fat. His face was angular, and his eyes were now crimson with slits, showing his merge with Kurama. His hair grew to between his shoulders. Two bangs framing his face and shadowing his now jagged whisker marks. Having outgrown his horrid orange jumpsuit, Naruto acquired new clothes in the chamber. He actually wore an Anosuit, a fabric made entirely of nanobits that repaired itself and changed its style and colors to suit his personal needs. Right now, it was a form-fitting armored suit with black gloves and boots. White armor on his torso, biceps, hips, and a segmented helmet that had a glowing visor over his eyes. Willing the helmet to open, steam hissed from the sides as the segments collapsed off his head and settled around his neck. He opened the door and walked out, leaving an unfortunately totaled mansion of mechanisms behind him, stepping into the outside world again after 1095 years. It was weird saying which because of the time difference. Point was, he was back on the outside, and who better to greet him than the creature that made it all possible. "Hey Merlin, what you been doing all this time?" He greeted the Galvan. Merlin was currently drinking a tiny cup of a human drink called tea, but looked up and smiled at Naruto. "Naruto my boy, where does the time go? I've just been working on some inventions of mine, keeping track of my brother's subject for his own creation, and monitoring your home. Quite a lot has happened since you've been gone," he informed the blonde, setting his tea down. "Like what?" Naruto asked, tilting his head slightly. "Well, for starters, your leader, Tsunade, has informed some of your peers on your situation, or at least a half-truth thereof, and her face has been added to the monument of your past leaders. They all took it in stride, save for the pink-haired girl who didn't show up and the boy I found you with, from what my drones have monitored. The boy has been ostracized by his peers for attempting to leave the village, his special eyes and chakra in general sealed away from him, your Anbu monitoring him 24/7, and the girl has holed up in her home. After a particularly biting response to her greeting of the boy, whatever he said sent her away in tears and lost him a few sympathy points, at least with the shinobi. The civilians still hold him on a pedestal and blame both you and this Orochimaru for corrupting him. Dear child, how you could stand 12 years of their idiocy is beyond me," Merlin complained, shaking his head at the villagers' view on Naruto, even after he brought their precious Uchiha. Naruto merely snorted, "Serves him right, I went through hell to get him back, for Sakura, so I believe they should both suffer," but after his response, "It sounds like Sakura has suffered enough, so I may forgive her. It depends on her reaction for when I return. Sasuke can go fuck himself, so what was this final phase you mentioned before I left?" He asked, chuckling at Sasuke's misery, but thinking about Sakura's situation, he no longer loved the pinkette, but he wasn't going to be an asshole without provocation. "Yes, the final part of my bet with my brother, before I send you back home, I wish you to engage his subject, Ben Tennyson, in a fight to see which of our experiments comes out on top, but before that, I wish to give you something." Floating over to a blanketed mound on his little platform, he grabbed the cloth and pulled, showing, a badge with the Galvan Herglis insignia. "I know it's not much to look at, but it's a weapon that will adapt to any alien form you choose and become an appropriate weapon for that form. It doesn't work for celestial sapiens or anodites, since the former can literally do anything, and the latter can create anything out of its mana. It'll even make a weapon for your human form. Try it out," he explained, gesturing for Naruto to pick it up. Nodding, Naruto picked the badge up and just looked at it. The Herglis blinked, and the texture of the badge turned to the consistency of a galvanic mechamorph, a black mass with green circuit lines, and transformed into a weapon Naruto chose first. It could change to other weapons when he was human. It took the form of a black katana with green leather on the handle with an Herglis-shaped guard. Thankfully Naruto learned Kinjutsu within the chamber, both because of several alien powers and for some jutsu from the holocron. He gave it a few experimental swings and found it to be perfect and willed it to return to its badge form and clipped it to his pants. "Thanks, Merlin, well. Let's go meet Ben so I can kick his ass," he joked, smiling foxily. Merlin chuckled and had his platform float him to the command terminal, commanding the ship to go to the other side of Earth, above Bellwood. "Just go in the escape pod and it'll drop you down," he explained. Nodding, Naruto walked to the escape pod having the knowledge of any Galvan ship from the species in his head and stepped in, strapping himself down. After about half a minute, he felt the pod shake and the sudden jerk as it was launched from the ship. Thankfully, he didn't feel the intense heat of re-entry. And the pod would allow him to land while not turning into a pile of goo inside of it from the G-force. Elwood, Mr. Smoothie. So we're all agreed. No listening to little girls from space sending messages about her planet at war. Ben mentioned, ignoring the rather mean decision. Oh yeah, you got a new alien, yeah, but by the end of the day, an entire planet hates us, and that girl got all my loot. Kevin complained, hanging his head in despair. Gwen just sighed, shaking her head at the turn of events on that distant planet that started with a message from a girl named Probity, a war between red and blue armies. Ben gets a new alien, Ben partially succeeds, then does something stupid, and now the entire planet is at war again, and everyone, including the girl that first enlisted their help, hates their guts. Before anyone could change the subject, a large mass fell from the sky and landed dangerously close to Kevin's car, flipping it over and wrecking it. My car. Not again, Kevin yelled, hanging his head in sorrow. His car was cursed, he swore. Ignoring the moping Kevin, Ben readied himself to activate the Ultimatrix. Gwen powered up her projectiles in her hands as the smoke and dust settled to show the mass was some kind of pod. As the surface facing them began to push out, steam pouring, the door lowered. They were surprised to find a human stepping out of the pod, especially since it had the symbol of Galvan's. You Ben Tennyson? The blonde teen asked. Gwen looked the boy up and down and blushed faintly. Yeah? Ben answered, raising a brow. I'm Naruto, and I've come to kick your ass, the blonde responded plainly, yet grinning foxily, causing Gwen's blush to intensify slightly, further enraging Kevin in his head. What makes you think you can? Ben asked, narrowing his eyes. Being overconfident was his thing. Let's just say I got a lot of experience, now let's go. Naruto instigated, grabbing his Galvan badge and willing it to form into a Fuma shuriken, black blades with green edges, and the Hergla symbol forming a handguard over the circle where he holds it. He threw the weapon, just in time for Ben to slam his hand down, turning into a giant orange humanoid dinosaur. Human Gausaur. Ben roared, his rough hide deflecting the weapon, sending it back to Naruto. Ah, a Vaxasaurian, how did I know you would resort to brute force from the get-go? Naruto commented, smirking as black cracks spread across his face and arms as his hands turned to red-orange stone, glowing with an unknown blue energy, but with a bit of Galilian. Everything big and tall must fall. He raised his hand. And human Gausaur rose in the air against his will and was thrown to the side when Naruto flicked his wrist in the same direction. Kevin was gobsmacked at what just happened, but brushed it off and absorbed the metal of his car after running to it and turned his hands into a mace and hammer, running at Naruto, intent on smashing his smug face in. And a pair of hybrids, Esmotion and Anodite, quite the colorful gang, Naruto commented as Gwen attempted to hurt him towards the berserk Kevin with her bolts, raising his right arm up as it turned green, and his fingers fused to 3 bulbous digits, a circle of green energy forming a shield for him, blocking both the bolts and Kevin's steel attacks, dropping the shield. One of his fingers split into a 4th digit and his arm turned to stone segments, a black wristband with silver spikes forming, as he punched Kevin in the chest, but the size of his fist also affected his stomach, cracking his steel skin and sending him flying. He transformed his other arm to match to block the downward hammerstrike from human Gausaur. Now twice as tall and covered in segmented armor and spikes, successfully blocking the gargantuan creature's attack, shocking everyone watching and pushing him back, grabbing his chest and causing green electricity to race across his body, his eyes turning to green light with arcing sparks as he attacked Ben. Ben roared in pain at the shocks coursing through his body, but managed to kick Naruto off, landing on his back. Sitting up, he decided to level the playing field and slammed on the symbol on his chest, evolving his form. His hide turned dark green, and he formed a blue plate on his head, chest and stomach, and a shell-like carapace on his back. Silver spikes down his head and black ones on the sides of his face, silver quills at the sides of his chest and armored stomach, a silver edge and massive spikes on his shell. His tail grew a blue mace with silver spikes, and he formed silver spikes on his knuckles, which he transformed his hands into barrels that shot rockets at Naruto. The blonde shinobi dodged with ease, smirking the entire time. More firepower isn't always better. Then again, he started, his head and arms erupting in flames, the latter forming molten plates on his skin, as he created a giant fireball and threw it towards Ultimate Human Gausaur, melting his missiles and continuing on its way to the evolved alien, exploding on impact. Sometimes it is. He finished, still smirking. He dodged Kevin's literal hammerstrike from behind, snapping his mouth open as he grew the jaws of a Pisxis Valan and chomped on his steel skin, flailing him around and finally throwing him towards Ultimate Human Gausaur, smacking his lips afterwards. Why does steel have that copper? Why taste like pennies? Amused to himself, he immediately began to dodge Gwen's barrage of bolts as a blue blur. He then cloaked himself to match the environment and snuck up on her, immediately wrapping her in bandages and lifting her into the air. "Do you yield?" he asked. She struggled for a bit but stopped inside. "Fine," she said. "By the way, I can feel through these bandages," he said plainly, smirking as she blushed crimson when she felt the bandages around her behind move a bit. He stopped teasing her and set her down, patting her head, smirking as her blush almost matched her hair. He immediately dodged Kevin's berserk rush, swinging his mace hand around and slammed his forehead into Kevin's. His head temporarily turning into a grey stone with a rhino horn-like pike sprouting from his nose, sending Kevin flying. He quickly shifted his head back to normal and shook it, clearing his thoughts and muttering under his breath, "Fucking non-sapient species a crustacetizer always makes my mind fuzzy, and it's not the completely rocky composition." Kevin immediately came back with a vengeance, wanting to smack Naruto's head off, but the blonde merely sighed at his violent jealousy when he was just teasing Gwen and willed a swarm of yellow snake heads to sprout from his back, all equipped with Pisces jaws, as they snapped at Kevin and tore off his steel skin, tossing him aside and leaving him in defeat. Finally came Ben, who changed from Ultimate Human Gaosaur to way big, immediately going ultimate. Naruto craned his neck as far as it could to look at the gigantic evolved Tokustar. "Well, shit," he commented, sighing. He strung his hands together into seals and slamming them on the ground. "Kuchius no Jutsu." He yelled, creating a massive cloud of smoke. When it cleared, he appeared on Gamabunta, who was just a bit shorter than way big. Looking up at the red, white, and blue alien, Gamabunta only had one thing to say, "Kami dammit, Gaki, what have you brought me to?" he asked, sighing. "I just need you to hold him down. I plan to bring him down with one hit," Naruto asked of the boss toad. Sighing again, Gamabunta nodded. "Fine, but you owe me another barrel of sake after this, and I mean my kind of barrel, not the human kind." He reaffirmed him, bringing his webbed hands together in a seal, "Suiton. Tepidama." He yelled, spitting out massive projectiles of water, sending Ultimate Way Big skidding back, not ready for the elemental attack, still reeling from his opponent summoning a giant frog out of nowhere. Yeah, you greedy drunk," Naruto responded as he gathered chakra in both his hands, summoning a pair of clones who aided in them. Well, he managed to master the Rasengan to a level where he could conjure it instantly, and with one hand, he needed a clone and time for what he had planned. His concentration wavered when Gamabunta hopped to the side to dodge Ultimate Way Big's massive beam attack. But he finished by the time Gamabunta landed and used the toad boss head as a springboard, growing a pair of amphibian wings to continue towards the transformed Tennyson's face, brandishing a pair of elemental Rasengan, the left one heading for Way Big's face surrounded by fire, the right having 4 points of wind chakra. "Kaiten. Kasai no Kamayo Uzamaku. High release. Swirling fire devastation," he yelled, tossing the spiraling ball of fire towards Way Big's face. Then he tossed the second Rasengan to the Tokustar's stomach. "Fuiton. Rasen Shuriken." When the flaming Rasengan hit Way Big, it expanded into a dome of fire, scorching his tough skin, and spun around his head for a while, as the Rasen Shuriken hit his stomach and expanding into a huge dome of needles. The force of both attacks toppled Way Big over, and he changed back to Ben when he landed. The boy's face slightly red from the aftereffects of the fire, and his stomach scratched up a bit, but nothing dangerous or enough to draw blood. Hell, just be really sore. Gwen, being the only one conscious, was gobsmacked at what this boy accomplished. He just demolished Kevin and Ben's strongest alien, with insane attacks like he came out of a comic book. "It appears I'm done here, see you later, Gaki." Gamabunta bid farewell, disappearing in an explosion of smoke as Naruto landed near Gwen. Waving at the toad, Naruto turned to Gwen and smirked at her, relishing in her confusion. "How did why did where did ah?" Gwen grabbed her head as it started to hurt from the questions she wanted to ask. "Calm down, Red, I'll assume from you hanging with Ben that you're Gwen Tennyson?" Naruto asked. Rubbing her temples, Gwen whimpered as she nodded. Chuckling again, Naruto split himself into triplets and had them pick up Ben and Kevin as he walked over to the elder teen's wrecked car, his hands glowing with a dusty yellow energy as he engulfed the wreckage in an orb of the energy, and the mess contorted as if it were reversed in time, soon reforming Kevin's perfectly fine car, which he set down. The duplicate set Ben and Kevin at the table the trio of teens were previously sitting at before Naruto came to lay the smack down. Once the boys woke up, Naruto greeted them with a smirk as they didn't bother attempting to fight him again, Ben holding his head in despair at his loss. "Okay, how did you do that?" he asked. "Pick your ass," Naruto asked, smirking still. "Shut up." Ben snapped, he held his face in exasperation. "How did you do all those transformations? It's like you have an Omnitrix, but you are it," Ben tried to reason. Nodding, Naruto finally answered, "That's essentially how it is. I was spliced with the DNA of every species in the universe, and thus, I have their powers and abilities. I also have the information of all species, including their strengths and weaknesses, as well as my own skills from where I come from," he explained. Team Ben was gobsmacked at this, the mere idea of every single species in one body was insane. "How is your body not imploding?" Ben asked. "Personal matter, I have higher regeneration and enhanced longevity. My body is naturally made of sterner stuff than most people, and I myself am not sure of what can outright kill me, due to my various alien powers that can heal most injuries, even lost limbs. I'm sure destroying my brain would kill me, though maybe," Naruto ended up hypothesizing. Stroking his chin in morbid thought at the possibility of his own death, as if it was not a big deal. All three teens sweat-dropped at how he spoke of his death, as if it was the weather. Gwen spoke up, "Who did this to you? I'm sure you didn't do it to yourself," she asked. "I understand you three are aware of the Omnitrix's creator, Asmith?" Naruto asked, receiving nods. He continued, "Well, after an intense battle near my homeland, his brother, Merlin, found me and, after receiving my permission on the matter, he injected me with the DNA and allowed me to use a chamber their father made to train in my alien abilities, as well as the arts of my people, physically. I'm 10 years old, but chronologically, I'm 15, the chamber let me train in 1095 years in only 3, he further explained. Asmith never mentioned a brother, Ben commented, flabbergasted at the supposed age of the person who defeated him, but also intrigued when he mentioned the arts of his people. Understandable, the two had a rivalry, which is why I'm here, as part of our agreement was that, after I used the chamber, I was to come here and fight you to see which of the two brothers had the better project. Merlin's methods of retrieving all this DNA was questioned by the Galvan Council, and, while Asmith defended him, he was exiled from the planet, and they hadn't talked since." Naruto explained once more. "So what are you gonna do now? And what's this about the art of your people?" Kevin finally chipped in. "I'll probably head back to my home continent to handle business there. As for the arts, the people where I come from are born with a source of energy that is a combination of physical and spiritual energy, which we call chakra. With chakra, we can do things such as climb walls, walk on water, control the elements, and many other things you would find incredible," Naruto continued with his lecture. Growing tired of explaining things, Gwen narrowed her eyes in thought at these abilities. They might be the product of another pairing of humans and some alien, possibly a celestial sapien. Turning back to the matter at hand, she retrieved a plumber, the Interstellar Organization of Peacekeeping and Alien Secrecy badge from the pocket of her skirt and offered it to Naruto, who took it. "That's so you can call on us for help. Just as aliens show up here, some might start showing up in your part of the world, especially now that you'll be emitting several signals some species might recognize as a beacon to come when you use their powers. We also ask that you can come here if we ask for your help," Gwen asked of the blonde. Smiling, Naruto brought the badge together with his amorphous weapon, absorbing it and integrating its technology into the mentally linked galvanic mechamerv tissue so it can still function as a communicator, making Naruto an unofficial plumber. "Sure thing, just give a call, and I'll do what I can, see ya." With a farewell two-fingered salute, Naruto disappeared in a blur of kineceleran speed, rocketing through Bellwood and the neighboring states until he made it to the western coast of the US and ran across the water to Asia and the elemental nations. The elemental nations weren't actually on the normal Earth most people know, but due to Naruto having chakra, it allowed him pass through a pseudo-portal that took him to an overlaying plane of existence on Earth that contained the elemental nations. In reality, it would appear as if Naruto disappeared from the planet. Speeding right by Mizu no Kuni and hitting the mainland of Hai no Kuni, Naruto took to the trees, traveling the conventional shinobi style, and made his way to the gates of Konoha, signing the clipboard of a dumbfounded Izumo and Katestu, and jumped across the rooftops towards the Hokage Tower, a blur of black and white to those below. Floating near the window with his Octonurite powers, Naruto phased through the wall and landed in the middle of the room, startling Tsunade, his helmet up. "Who are you? Give me one good reason why I shouldn't punch your head clean of your body for invading Konoha and breaking into the Hokage's office," Tsunade demanded, shooting to her feet. "Well, for one thing, I'm still not sure if someone taking my head off will still kill me, but I'm not eager to try, and besides, don't you recognize me, Bachan?" Naruto asked, his voice altered slightly when speaking through the helmet. Tsunade grit her teeth in rage. No one called her that since he did, but hearing someone indeed call her by that moniker lit a flame of hope. "Who are you?" she asked, almost whispering it. Naruto made a show of opening his helmet, the hissing steam adding to the tension of the moment as the panels of the helmet fell slowly. Soon, his face was revealed, smiling foxily at his grandmother figure, his eyes soft as he held his arms out. "Hey, Bachan," he greeted warmly. Tears spilled from her eyes as her body trembled and she shakily walked towards Naruto, grasping his arms as if to check that he's real, releasing a pulse of chakra to shatter any genjutsu. When the armored blonde remained, her tears doubled and she nearly crushed him in a relieved hug, their heads level as she rested hers on his shoulder, her body racking with sobs. Thankfully more resilient than he used to be, Naruto wasn't injured by her strength and hugged her back, closing his eyes as he let her cry it all out. He stroked her hair and back soothingly as he channeled a combination of chakra and the life essence of a pyroavian, a bird-like offshoot of the pyronite species. Having evolved to grow wings to go off-world to escape the Cristacidas or predator of the elemental species, the combination of energies allowed Tsunade to regain some of her youth, making her beautiful genjutsu a reality. She gasped and stepped back, glancing at the crimson wave of energy in her stomach and rippling across her body, before she could ask Naruto about what he did. He touched a finger to the center of her collarbone, his opposite hand held in the Taurus seal. "Kai," he announced with a smile. Before Tsunade could punch him in the face for dispelling her genjutsu, she noticed she didn't change. Unsealing the Hokage's scrying orb, she looked at her reflection and found she didn't change when she dispelled the genjutsu herself, attempting it just in case Naruto was bluffing. Her body was revitalized, she felt younger, stronger, more resilient. "I rejuvenated your body, botch ah." Naruto attempted to explain, but Tsunade nearly tackled him to the ground in a hug before standing up and lifting him along with her, profusely thanking him while having the biggest smile on her face and attempt to crush his spine with the strength of her hug. After begging for mercy, as even his amalgamous DNA couldn't withstand her Herculean strength, Naruto was set free and laid on the floor for a bit in pain, before explaining where he went for so long. Tsunade was shocked at the idea of aliens and the Western civilizations being so advanced, as well as the prospect of Naruto knowing every jutsu in existence. Hypothesizing that any Kekkei Genkai requiring techniques were compensated with an alien facsimile that allowed him those certain abilities, with the amazingly diverse abilities of aliens on the table, stuff like X-ray vision and 360-degree vision or preflexes and photographic memory were probably available among the stars in more than a few places, filing that away for now. Tsunade formally welcomed Naruto back to Konoha and promoted him to Chunin on the spot, citing his salvation of the village during the exams by fighting Gaara and by proxy, the Ichibi no Tanuki, as well as completing the A-rank mission of finding a successor for the Hokage and fighting off an S-rank missing nin and his Jounin Anbu level minion. And returning the Uchiha to Konoha as well as the experience he technically acquired from within the hyperbolic time chamber, well over 1,000 years, he was more than deserving of the rank. If the council complained, fuck them. Thanking her and having his nanosuit absorb the vest and integrated into the design, Naruto asked for bade her farewell and headed for the apartment Sasuke was demoted to after returning to the village, his ownership over the Uchiha compound relinquished and any assets of his liquidated, following the scent of tomatoes and ash with the senses of a Vulpamancer. Landing in front of the door and willing his helmet back on to surprise Sasuke, Naruto knocked and waited. Then knocked again when no one came. Then again. Then pounded his fist on the door, making sure whoever was inside heard. Finally, he heard stomping footsteps barrel towards the door and the entrance swung open, revealing an incredibly angered Sasuke, glaring heatedly at whoever didn't get the message that he didn't want to be disturbed, only to come face to face with an armored figure, the faint neon slits of his helmet shining on Sasuke's face. "Who are you? Don't you get it when someone doesn't want to answer the door?" Sasuke yelled at the stranger, cursing Tsunade for the millionth time for sealing his chakra, or he would just reduce this commoner to a pile of ash. "Don't you recognize me, team? It's only been 3 years since I brought you to heel like the dog you are," Naruto reminded the Uchiha, finding extreme amusement by the shocked visage of his once teammate before it turned into smoldering rage. "Naruto?" Sasuke roared before attempting to bullrush the blonde, only for said Jinchuriki to sidestep him, grab the collar of his shirt when he passed him, and throw him back into his home, shattering a small cabinet that held nothing of value to the Uchiha. Even though his chakra was sealed, Sasuke still had his shinobi skills, so it didn't take him long to return to his feet and run at Naruto, swinging his fist to take Naruto's head off. He would have succeeded if Naruto wasn't A. wearing a helmet, B. near indestructible with his new powers, or C. smart. Bringing his leg up and kicking the fist away, breaking Sasuke's wrist, Naruto shot his hand forward and grabbed Sasuke by the throat, lifting him up to eye level as the Uchiha grit his teeth in pain at his wrist and the crushing force around his throat. What do you want, hack? D-dope. Sasuke ground out. Naruto brought his face closer, lowering his helmet to look straight in Sasuke's eyes, grinning almost sadistically. "I just came to say hi to an old friend, is that so wrong?" he said before letting Sasuke fall to the ground and crouching down, his feet flashing a molten yellow, his shins forming red slabs of cooled magma as he shot into the sky in a trail of fire, flipping in the air to float above the village, angelic wings bursting from his back to keep him aloft, his hands fusing into 3 fingers and glowing yellow. A species shallowly similar to Homo sapiens, Similaris Asen were angelic humanoids that were, in actuality, beings composed entirely of light refracting ambient light to give them an appearance based on their mind. All Similaris had blonde hair and 3 fingers, though the wings were constructs of light from their bodies. In times of war, however, the naturally peace-loving species could utilize light in a variety of ways, but they never killed, only incapacitated or reduced the enemy's vehicles and weapons to scraps. Looking over the village for a bit, Naruto soon flew down to his apartment and began to make his adjustments to make it well, not suck. Dispersing the changes from the Similaris, Naruto generated a silver goo-like substance from his hands, which was actually millions upon millions of nanobits that he used to create the device necessary for his plans, utilizing the combined intelligence of Galvans and Cerebrocrustaceans. While the device was actually Gallifreyan in origin, the technology was dimensionally transcendental, making the door a portal to the new apartment, which existed in a separate dimension, much like the elemental nations did to Earth. In layman's terms, it was bigger on the inside. Naruto was currently swinging around Konoha, a pair of yellow tails swaying behind him and black circles around his eyes, with lines branching back to darken the shells of his ears. The tails proved prehensile and let him swing on almost anything as portals opened in his path, teleporting him here and there as he made his way to Training Field 7. Tsunade informing him that he was required to spar alongside Sakura against a shinobi of her choosing to estimate the authenticity of his theorized strength. Upon touching down and absorbing his features, Naruto looked over Sakura from behind as she didn't notice his arrival. Tsunade informed him that Sakura learned under her and it shows in Sakura's stance, alert but confident. She wore black gloves, elbow pads, a skirt over her bicycle shorts, and shin-high shinobi boots. He tapped her shoulder to get her attention. "Hey Sakura-chan," he greeted. She spun around, eager to meet the person who helped her see the light, Naruto. She greeted exuberantly, almost tackling the blonde as she hugged him. Frozen with shock, Naruto was unable to return the hug, but Sakura didn't mind. She retrieved her arms from around his shoulders and stepped back to look him over, smiling brightly as she crossed her arms behind her back. What was that for?" he asked, confused. Blushing slightly at her forwardness, she rubbed the back of her head much like Naruto used to do. "I wanted to thank you for everything you've done. When Sasuke returned to the village, I went to greet him and tell him how happy I was that he returned, but he snapped at me and said he hated you for returning him to the village after Hokage-sama sealed his chakra. He showed his true colors and made me realize how stupid I was to love him for all those years, and while I'm not ready to return your years of affection, I hope you can give me a second chance to be your friend," she meekly explained. Smiling softly, Naruto nodded and engulfed her in a hug to return hers from before. "I'd like that, Sakura-chan. Well, I'm happy to hear that you've stopped jazzing him. I wish it was under better circumstances," Naruto himself explained, alluding to her reaction to Sasuke's violent return. Nodding sadly but in agreement, Sakura attempted to change the topic. "So, where have you been for 3 years? Tsunade-sama mentioned you were away on training, but nothing else," she asked. Not seeing anything wrong with informing her on his work with Merlin, as she would find out anyway during the spar, Naruto sat down with her and explained about Merlin picking him up after his clash with Sasuke and the subsequent procedure to inject him with the DNA of every alien species out there. After that, he explained about completing his end of Merlin's bargain and brought up his journey to the western countries, to a place called America, where he soundly trounced the subject of Merlin's brother, Asmioth, Ben Tennyson and co. But after that, he struck an alliance with them in the Plumbers, vaguely explaining the extraterrestrial police force and would call on them for help or answer their calls. He neglected to mention his quick visit with Sasuke, but unfortunately, mentioning his surviving the DNA process meant he had to explain how. Thus he explained his situation with the Kyuubi. He was surprised to find that she took it in stride, saying it explained many things about him in the past. Happy that someone didn't hate him for his burden, Naruto thanked her for her open-mindedness. Before they could continue conversing, Kakashi arrived on the scene, reading his trademark Icha Icha. "Ah, Sakura-chan, good to see you again." And Naruto, Tsunade-sama mentioned that you were away with a friend for training, and I can see you received some major benefits. As she explained, "I am here to test you both as shinobi of Konoha." Naruto, "While I know you've been promoted to Chunin, this is still required, especially when Hokage-sama mentioned your strange abilities." I don't know the specifics, but a good fight is always a great chance to show off, so let's begin, he began, pocketing his book and shuffling inside the same pouch, taking out a pair of familiar objects. To win this, you must take these bells from me. He dangled those damnable childhood things in front of his lone eye, mentally relishing their annoyed expressions. Naruto's eye twitched as he felt the apoplexy and rage bubble to the surface at the sight of those fucking things, complete with momentary muscular build-up and odd hand blades. Pushing it down, he merely frowned, determination bursting to life in his eyes. "We're gonna beat your ass, Kakashi-sensei." He thrust his fist forward, the nano machine suit pulling back to leave his fingers bare, the flesh melting away to leave bone, one finger disappearing, before a spear of bone shot from his wrist. Eye widening in shock, Kakashi was barely able to dodge the weapon, only to curse when Sakura took the opportunity to close the distance between, fist raised. Well, Kakashi didn't know about Naruto's new powers, he definitely knew what Sakura was doing, so he replaced himself with a very spear Naruto shot at him, buried in a tree on the other side of the field. Saving himself from what was going to happen. Holy fuck. Naruto mentally swore, eyes wide in shock and horror as the area around Sakura's fist exploded with chunks of earth. He was forced to dodge his own allies' attacks, flipping this way and that, until he just decided to avoid everything, jumping high up and staying there. His lower body was now garbed in what appeared to be baggy pants. The pattern moving like some type of visual illusion, a gray and black background with red slashes moving around the material, tucked into brown boots with curled tips like elf shoes. The illusions, capable of levitation, teleportation, and soul manipulation, currently had Naruto's thanks. "The more I see it, the more terrifying you become in my eyes, Sakura-chan," Kakashi commented from his position, previous Icha nowhere in sight. Sakura merely giggled and gave Kakashi a peace sign. "I take it this is Bachan's work?" Naruto asked from his position in the air, drawing odd looks from both of them. Sakura, already sort of knowing beforehand this would happen, got out of her shock and nodded, "Yep. 2 days after Sasuke came back, I went to Hokage-sama and asked her to teach me. It took a bit of begging and a lot of compromise and promises, but she took me in, and now she's announced him officially a capable medic nin. She even taught me her enhanced strength technique. And she says I'm making good progress in it," Sakura explained cheerily. Naruto's eyes widened again. "This is only good progress. Well, I remember what Bachan is able to do back when we went to get her and had to fight Orochimaru, so I guess it's to be expected this isn't the extent of what she'll be able to do. Oh, I hope she's also outgrown punching me. I may be hard to kill thanks to all these alien powers, but I don't want to test it." Naruto lamented his future before putting it to the wayside and dropping back to the earth, his legs changing back before he pulled off his plumber badge, willing it to form into a familiar giant cleaver, the Kubikira Bouchu, the garden elongated angular Hergless, and the blade and handle black and green, respectively. "This is going to end with a lot of questions, isn't it?" Kakashi asked flatly. "Probably, now then," Naruto started, before leaping at Kakashi at speeds he didn't expect the blonde to be able to achieve, thus leaving himself open for the slash that bisected him from shoulder to hip, only to go up in smoke. "Kage Bunshin. That's my thing," Naruto complained, before he found himself surrounded by 5 Kakashis. Instead of looking slightly fearful, he smirked, "Only 5. That's right, I forgot, I'm really the only one who can overuse it, right?" Bringing his hands together in the familiar cross-shaped seal, 19 Narutos appeared beside the original, outnumbering the Kakashis 4-1. Sakura took that moment to appear by her comrade's side, back to back, smirking with him at the nervous Kakashis around them. Momentarily frowning at a thought, Naruto's eyes turned pure yellow, a black marking forming from his hairline and sweeping down, thin at the top, crossing his eyes, and widening to engulfing his entire jaw. As he looked at the 5 Kakashis, unfortunately finding he was correct, Naruto discreetly whispered to Sakura, the Pinkette's green eyes widening momentarily. Before flickering towards an empty spot on the field and nodding minutely. Averting his face and eyes, Naruto suddenly smirked, giving the signal for his clones to attack Kakashis, kneeling low and allowing Sakura to jump onto the flat of his blade. "Don't think you can hide, Kakashi-sensei," he announced, spinning on his heel and launching Sakura towards the center of the field, her fist ablaze with chakra. "Shanro!" Sakura yelled at the same time Kakashi's invisibility technique fell, the silver-haired Jounin jumping away again, this time using chakra channel through his legs to get himself high enough to escape the results of Sakura's attack. Unfortunately, it left him open for a giant turtle shell to slam into him, knocking him right out of the air. Tetsudians. The less awesome Gyuchilonario, Naruto mentally remarked as the Tetsudinian shell, black with green spiral carvings, shrunk into his back and he jumped away from the groaning Kakashi with a smirk on his face. "Ow, what the hell hit me?" Kakashi asked pitifully. "The shell of a giant bipedal tortoise that can't really do anything else but be a meat shield," Naruto answered questioningly. "You got the bells, didn't you?" Kakashi asked, brushing that odd answer off for now. Yep. Naruto responded, holding them up to eye level, a cheering Sakura skipping towards him. Congratulations, you pass, I heard everywhere, Kakashi commented, not moving from his spot on the ground. Ah, don't be such a whiner, Sakura-chan can patch you up, right? Naruto asked, turning towards the Pinkette, who nodded and smiled, kneeling down and holding her glowing hands over Kakashi's torso, then his head, then his extremities. Wow, Naruto really messed him up. How'd you know none of them were me? Kakashi asked once he was healed enough to sit up. The eyes of a Mentival can't see heat signatures, clones don't give them off since they're made of chakra, Naruto explained, to a flat stare. Mentival? Kakashi questioned. Alien? And the shell? Alien? And the bone? Alien? Can you start from the beginning? Kakashi asked him possibly more flatly. Chuckling and nodding, Naruto got to business and explained what happened at the Valley of the End. Just like he did with Sakura, Kakashi was shocked to learn about life on other planets, and this Merlin taking Naruto in for this procedure. He was also surprised to learn about civilization outside of the elemental nations. And that they were technically on a separate plane to the rest of the planet. Naruto, why can't things be simple when you're involved? Kakashi asked exasperatedly. Because simple is boring, Naruto responded simply with a large grin. Of course you'd say that, the Jounin responded flatly, but anyway, with this test passed, you are officially sanctioned to take up missions for Konoha, and this also means that the Konoha 11 are all Chunin, and that includes the rookies from 3 years ago, the fastest cases of rising to Chunin, outside of extenuating circumstances, Kakashi explained, looking the other way for a bit. Like you and Itachi? Naruto asked dryly, receiving a nod. Yeah, Kakashi relented lowly. So, are we going to do a mission today? Naruto asked excitedly. Probably not, I might need to take today to mope about how my cute little students actually beat me, Kakashi responded nonchalantly, making a show of appearing despondent. That's just being lazy, both Chunin translated with blank stares. Fine, whatever, I need to get back to Tsunade-sensei for today's training, Sakura spoke in turn, leaving the field in a huff once she cleared Kakashi of his injuries. Chuckling at her reaction, Naruto turned to Kakashi, hey sensei, wanna go have lunch? I wanna catch up, he asked with a small smile. Smiling behind his mask, Kakashi got up from the ground, wincing slightly when he realized Sakura purposely left a bit of the pain, probably to spite him for his laziness, but head manage, sure Naruto, that sounds nice, he responded, walking in step with the blonde, before sweat dropping at a thought, but can it not be a Chirikus? He asked. What? I've been gone for over 1,000 years, it's been 3, the hell am not taking this opportunity to have a Chirikus. Naruto responded belligerently. Fine, well have a Chirikus, as long as you explain this 1,000 years nonsense, Kakashi bargained relented. Well, Merlin Oji-san had this machine room thing that slowed time, I needed it to learn about my abilities and the jutsu he gave me, Naruto answered as they stepped through the field's entrance. Oh? Merlin-san had jutsu. How? Kakashi asked quizzically. While I was unconscious from the procedure, he sent this cube thing out into the elemental nations to record every jutsu he could find for me to learn, the blonde responded, using his hands to attempt to form a cube. And, how many was that? Kakashi asked, knowing the answer to the time he felt saw some sort of light on him. It raised all sorts of security hell in the village, when literally every other shinobi experienced the same thing, they thought it was sort of enemy reconnaissance. Sweat dropping at what he was going to say, and the hell it might raise, Naruto hesitantly answered, all of them. Huh? Merlin Oji-san said he had it scan every shinobi in the elemental nations, as well as scrolls for techniques no one knew, Naruto elaborated flatly. So, you know, every jutsu. From Iwa and Suna to Kiri, if here's a technique, you know it. Kakashi asked for clarification, slowly breaking out into a cold sweat. Yeah, from D to S rank, I know 'em all, I also feel like I mastered them to a good degree, but of course there's always someone else that has probably perfected them, probably the people who created them, Naruto commented. Simple is boring, huh? Naruto, if I didn't have it already, I just know you'd be giving me gray hairs, Kakashi commented after a while, hanging his head in defeat. Yeah, so, about that ramen? Naruto asked, completely throwing the previous subject out the window, to the relief of both of them. Sure, Kakashi relented with a chuckle, happy to just forget that massive headache, so, what's the deal with your weapon? And the new outfit? He asked, still a bit curious about everything Naruto got up to. Merlin Oji-san explained they were really tiny machines linked to my brain to create whatever I want, and this is pretty much the default form, combined with my Chunin vest, the weapon automatically changes to fit whatever alien form I take, but it doesn't really work for 2 aliens, Naruto explained, plucking his plumber badge from his waist, and since my trip to America. This also functions as a communicator for my friends over there in case they need help or if I do," he added, swiping his thumb across it softly. "Well, some help from new allies would be nice, but it would be a pain to have you disappear on us, especially if something happens where we need you," Kakashi pointed out. "Actually, it'd be fine, thanks to my lempuroidal ability, I can be there and back whenever I want, I can open portals to wherever I want, as long as I've been there before, and if I'm there and you guys need me," Naruto started, reaching into his pocket and taking out an object Kakashi hadn't seen in over 15 years, "Just put chakra into this, and it'll be alerted to your help. I can also create duplicates, like my cage bunch and only better, in case I can't personally come to help, it doesn't cut my power or anything, so it's okay, and why are you making that face?" Naruto ended up asking when Kakashi just stared at the tri-pointed kunai, standing in the middle of the road. "Then Naruto, why you know the so you know about," Kakashi half-asked, too shocked to really complete sentences. Naruto's face took a somber tone as he thought back to when he found out about his parents. "Yeah, I know," he answered simply, pulling Kakashi aside to explain the whole thing. "After breaking through the Kyuubi's Kurama abrasive, I want to kill you and everything else personality." Naruto forged a partnership with the Bijuu and thus began training and using his chakra to both strengthen their bond and gain strength. Coming to terms with the power he once hated, Naruto had mastered 6 tails, but in training with the 7th, his concentration slipped. And he dove right into the 8, quickly losing control. No matter Kurama's attempts to reel his own power back to not kill his first human friend, when that happened, apparently a failsafe the Yondaime left activated and a chakra projection of the man appeared to reinforce the seal, also having a heart-to-heart with Naruto about his sorrow at not being there. And the village's idiocy once Naruto explained that part. After Naruto punched him, of course. Namikaze Minato took it with a smile, saying he deserved it and proceeded to just chat with Naruto about his life before his chakra faded away. Much like Kakashi, Minato expressed great shock at this alien business but accepted it as a message that Naruto would be capable of great things. When Minato faded away after they had a good cry, Naruto continued his Bijuu chakra training, this time taking it much slower at the 7th tail. It fought him quite a bit, but Naruto managed it. Of course, the 8th and 9th tails proved harder, but thankfully Naruto didn't slip this time, taking absolutely no risks in the matter. Then came the final plunge. Naruto had mastered all 9 tails, yes, but he needed to perfectly sync up with Kurama on a level beyond just manipulating 9 tails worth of chakra, that involved completely opening the seal, and that involved summoning Gamakichi after having a nice chat about where he was, how he was doing, stuff like that, then asking for the toad that had the key. Something Kurama mentioned he witnessed after he was sealed, through his indignant rage at that same fact, once Giratora appeared, and after Naruto went the great lengths to convince the skeptical bastard that he was ready, he gave Naruto the key and hightailed it out of there when he saw Naruto was about to unseal it right away. And facing Kurama, Naruto met his mother on a separate plane of his mindscape, Kushina, having left her own bit of chakra like Minato did for just such an occasion, and had his own heart-to-heart with a woman who related to his childhood from her own life as a Jinchuriki and a foreigner to Konoha. Naruto didn't punch her, he'd freely admit to being a mama's boy. Anyway, Kushina provided her aid against Kurama, utilizing her chakra chains against the Bijuu, eventually allowing Naruto to take Kurama's chakra into himself, achieving some sort of golden chakra state when he was in perfect synchronization with Kurama. After a tear-jerking farewell, Kushina faded from the seal, and Naruto trained in his new ability until he was accustomed to it, Kurama grumbling about his defeat the entire time, even though he also smiled when he accepted Naruto as his equal. Kakashi might have gone completely comatose after Naruto finished his story for all the blonde knew with how frozen he was, he didn't even look like he was breathing. After several minutes of just standing there, Kakashi sighed as deeply as he could and buried his face in his hands, lamenting the headaches Naruto was causing. "Well, it's good to know you met them, at least. I was worried you'd at least hate your father for sealing the Kyuubi into you," he commented after a while. "No, I could never hate him, I asked him that myself and he said how could he ask something of another that he wouldn't do himself. Plus, he believed I was strong enough to take the Kyuubi's hate and make myself strong, and he was right, though not in the way I think he thought," Naruto responded with a chuckle. "Anyway, after that I decided to train specifically in chakra chains, the Hiraishin. And the Rasengan, just for them," he added. Akasha's breath hitched at the second half of the reason Minato-sensei was considered a SS rank flea on-site shinobi, before he chuckled. "I should guessed you knew the Rasengan as well, but I guess the Hiraishin's mark solves that problem from before, so I guess that'd be okay. I assume you're going to give that to Hokage-sama?" Kakashi asked with a raised brow. "Yeah, I will, but I also want to give one to you, just in case something happens to Bachan and she can't activate it," Naruto responded, holding the special kunai out to his sensei. I widened in shock, then softening in memory at the sight of that kunai. Kakashi took it and let his fingers brush over the blade as he remembered all those days with Team Minato, Rin, Obito, Minato-sensei. He closed his eye as the memory threatened to overwhelm him before pocketing the weapon. "Thanks Naruto, I'll be sure to use it when the situation arises," he said with a nod. "I know you will, sensei, now how about that ramen?" Ever single-mindedly focused, Naruto got back to the heart of the matter, at least his hunger was concerning. Chuckling heartily at that, Kakashi nodded again. "Fine, let's go have that ramen," he affirmed, continuing down their path from the shallow alleyway they sequestered into for their talk. He blinked when he remembered something. "Hey Naruto, what's up with those two aliens you mentioned your weapon doesn't work for?" he asked. Blinking in surprise, Naruto took a minute to remember that he mentioned that. "Oh yeah. It doesn't work because those two can do literally anything, as long as at least two of us agree for the first," he explained. "Agree?" Kakashi echoed for clarification. "Yeah, with my Celestial Sapien ability, I have two voices in my head that have to agree on something in order for the body to do anything. Before I came along, they were arguing about saving some species of creatures from extinction 64 million years ago," Naruto explained with a sweat drop. Kakashi sweat dropped as well, bit behind, aren't they? Could they even do that? He wondered. "Oh yeah, definitely, when I was training in the room, I accidentally wrecked a machinery that was actually supplying me with the information on the aliens, and I used its ability to turn back time to fix it, and when I got a bit too crazy during training, I actually used its power to escape dying," Naruto explained gravely, drawing a wide eye from Kakashi in pure shock and horror. "That kind of power was incomprehensible." Juderin, my voice of rage and aggression, explained that Celestial Sapiens have the power to bend reality itself, and even ones that have developed 6 personalities, and thus the requisite power that would require such counsel, actually have the ability to destroy the multiverse, he added, just to get the point across. Kakashi had gotten significantly paler as Naruto spoke, actually terrified of the power his student wielded. "Naruto, please tell me you'll never use that power unless something goes horribly bad," Kakashi begged. Nodding gravely, Naruto agreed. "Definitely, Kakashi-sensei, I'm actually afraid of that power, so I don't use it often, if ever," he said. Kakashi merely nodded, moving on to the next subject after that scary derailment. "And the other alien that can't use it?" he asked shakily. Thankful for the subject change, Naruto acquiesced. "Anodite, partially, because whatever weapon I could want, I can create out of mana, and partially because those powers are a bit iffy. Anodites don't have DNA, as they are purely beings of energy, so Merlin OG-san had to take an sample, but it wasn't really a 1-1 approximation whenever I try to use those powers. I have to fight the personality of that anodite to go against what it wants instead of what I do, and it's really difficult since anodites are immortal, carefree, and capable of bending reality like Celestial Sapiens, but not to that extent. I prefer to not use it altogether," he admitted with a shrug. "Is there any species you don't have?" Kakashi asked, just rolling with another reality bender species. "Slamebiid and Contumelia," Naruto responded with. "What and what?" Kakashi dared to ask. "Sapient life forms that predate all creation and are tasked with collecting and dispersing DNA across existence, and fifth-dimensional beings that create and destroy entire universes for experiments that appear to you as the thing you hold closest to your heart," Naruto answered flatly. "You know what, I am just gonna stop asking questions." Kakashi finally gave up. Naruto merely chuckled as they finally happened upon Ichiricus, deciding to turn the conversation to Kakashi talking about stuff, mostly what happened while he was gone. The next day, Naruto found himself in Tsunade's office beside Sakura, Kakashi, and Temari of all people for an urgent mission. "We've just received word that Sunagaker has been attacked, it's Akatsuki, and they took Gaara, the Kazekage," Tsunade informed them, to gasps all around. Naruto more so than the others, after hearing Gaara became Kazekage, he could exactly be proud of his friend right now, considering the circumstances. "I've brought you together to head there and rescue him. I know this isn't the greatest team for such a mission, but everyone else is already out on missions in and out of the village, but I'll be sending backup when I can. I believe Team 9 will be returning shortly, so I'll probably send for them," she explained. "Hi Hokage-sama." Everyone responded before taking her leave, immediately dispersing to pack for such a trip. Only 10 minutes later did they meet at the west gate. "Okay, this isn't the time for messing around, so I'll have to get us there fast. Everyone get on my back," Naruto demanded, splitting into 3 duplicates. "What the hell are you talking about? How will this help us get there faster? This will only slow us down." "What are you two doing?" Temari asked, confused as Sakura and Kakashi acquiesced. "Temari, if Naruto says he can get us there fast, then he can get us there fast, right?" Sakura asked Naruto for clarification. Yeah, I can fly us there while boosting for speed to cut down on time. I want to just blaze across the land, but what I'd use for that isn't good for turns, so it'd probably keep hitting trees. This is the better option, the original responded as he grunted, long red arms bursting from his shoulder blades, with yellow webbing from the wrists to his body, the clone holding Kakashi doing the same. What the hell, Tamari started, aghast and shocked. Just get on. The clone before her yelled, causing her to yelp and hesitantly listen, getting a front row seat to the process as it formed its own extra appendages before the three Narutos jumped high into the air, flying southwest before their feet burst into flames, propelling them forward infinitely faster. Causing the wind to nearly throw the three of them off were it not for their ride's grips. How the hell are you doing this? Tamari had to yell over the howling wind. Science. The clone merely responded with. How long do you think it'll take us to reach Suna at this rate compared to on foot? The clone holding Kakashi asked before Tamari could snap at its brethren. Probably a day and a half at most. On foot THISD take probably more than 3 days. The Jounin responded over the wind. 10 hours later. The Narutos had to land as they were quickly fatiguing from the constant blast of pyronite flame and the normal strain of using his alien powers for so long as opposed to short bursts. Thankfully, Naruto trained this beforehand, otherwise he would have had to land every 1 hour or so, monster stamina or not. Touching down and letting their passengers fumble off, the three blondes stumbled into a single form, the original falling on his ass. Ha ha, damn, I forgot what this feels like, Naruto commented between pants. I never thought I'd see the day where Uzumaki Naruto gets exhausted, Kakashi commented after getting his wind-ruffled hair under control, the ladies doing the same. Okay, does someone want to explain what the hell is going on? Tamari demanded with a crazed look, having to spend 10 hours of staring at a pair of limbs that didn't belong on a human, her own health question slowly driving her insane. Like I said, science, Naruto responded with a tired grin, his breathing under control as his energy quickly replenished, but he wasn't up for another 10-hour flight just yet. Remember when Sasuke tried to defect 3 years ago? I'm sure Suna knows about that and that I went after him, Naruto said, receiving a nod. Well, after I beat him, I was taken in by an alien, he started, knowing that would bring up a question. Alien? What does that even mean? Tamari asked for clarification. A creature not of this world. Hold on, I can just do a full transformation to show you, Naruto pointed out, closing his eyes to concentrate. After only a second, he began to shrink and turn gray, before he was left a 3-inch tall frog-like humanoid with large green eyes with bar-shaped pupils and black and white robes. He looked like this, he pointed out. His voice not sounding stereotypically tiny and squeaky as they expected. Tamari merely stared, her mouth hanging open, before her eyes rolled up and she fainted. No, I should seen that coming, Naruto commented before changing back. Yeah, you probably should have, Kakashi responded airily, his own eyes wide with shock at seeing this alien business up close, but he was taking it slightly better. Sakura was in much the same shape, but they were both recovering. I guess we set up camp here, Naruto pointed out with a shrug, looking down the path as the sun was just dipping into the horizon, meaning it was 6 p.m.-ish. That's so, Kakashi agreed as they all began setting up camp, Naruto moving Tamari over to lean against a tree instead of being laid out in the middle of the road as they found a big enough clearing near the road. 30 minutes later. Ugh, what happened? Tamari groused as she finally came to, rubbing her head as she found herself against a tree, opening her eyes. She found her temporary teammates huddled around a campfire, chatting about this and that as they ate shitty rations. She yelled, pointing an accusatory finger at Naruto. Ah, you're awake, Kakashi commented with an eye smile. We were, and you were how did, Tamari tried to piece a sentence together, but there were too many things going on in her head. Yes, we were flying, and yes I was a little gray guy, and like I said, an alien. He was a creature from another planet, and he came to me for an experiment he devised in a bet against his brother. He wanted to create an organism that held the DNA of every creature in the galaxy, and came to me because of my Uzumaki life force, and the Kyuubi's healing. I agreed since he said, after I did one thing. I had free reign on the power. I did the procedure, trained in a special room he had that slowed the flow of time for over 1,000 years, and fought his brother's test subject, a kid with a device that let him do the same thing, and won. Those wings and flames were the abilities of 2 other aliens, and that bit I said about blazing across the land was another alien that can move insanely fast. Naruto explained. Oh, calm my head, Tamari moaned in pain at the influx of information. We know, Sakura and Kakashi agreed with flat stares towards Naruto, who only pouted and crossed his arms childishly, getting a laugh from them. So, how many aliens do you have the DNA of? Tamari dared to ask. 1,087,000. Technically 1 is an energy sample, since the alien species doesn't have DNA, and 2 I don't have are of a creature that predates all life and eats DNA, so there's a problem, and a fifth dimensional being whose DNA is probably on a level my body won't be able to comprehend, so forget that, Naruto responded as if it were the simplest thing. Okami my head. We know. After helping Temari deal with her headache and clearing the camp, Naruto flew everyone towards Suna again, this time using a sort of lunar energy collecting method of the moon's rays once it arose, nearly doubling the time he was able to stay aloft, moving into solar collection when the day rolled in. After another 18 hours, they dropped down for him recharge his abused batteries. Taking an hour this time considering his usage, thankfully they were only around 7 hours away from Suna, so he won't need to extend his reserves. Upon touching down in K's no Kuni, Naruto quickly used his Granulsion abilities to coalesce the sand into a solid plateau, so they at least the Konoha shinobi, Temari was used to it won't be seared by their heat. He used a bit of polar manzadrel to keep him cool, ignoring Temer's teasing. Once he was charged up, he actually decided to use Kineselerin to get them there. Since it would be a straight shot, normally, he won't be able to run on non-solid ground, but with chakra he negated that. Of course, nobody was ready for the sudden slam of wind that hit them when they began moving at speeds even faster than when they flew. The Narutos moved at such speeds that they all observed the Suna guard standing frozen before they finally stopped, as if time stopped while they moved. By the magic of chakra, they escaped whiplash, but the sudden stop still hurt. It also threw up a lot of sand and scared the shit out of the guards when they just appeared. Who are you and what is your business here? We are not open to visitors at this time. The guard shakily stated. We're the Konoha contingent to aid with the Kazekage crisis, Kakashi stated once his stomach caught up with him. The guard blinked in surprise and shock. Already? We only received the Hokage's response concerning you just 2 hours ago. How did you get here so fast? We weren't expecting you for another 2 days. The guard asked in shock. Everyone pointed at Naruto as if he were at fault for some crime. Hey. I said I was going to get us here fast, and I got us here fast. Don't point at me like this is bad. Naruto yelled indignantly. Well, all the same, thank you for getting here as fast as you could. I'll escort you to Baki-sama, so you may receive details on the situation, the guard offered, receiving nods all around before he escorted them to the Kazekage tower. Team 7 and Temari looked around, finding no real destruction despite Akatsuki's presence not days ago. Hey, how come there's no damage to the village? Didn't Akatsuki attack to lure Gaara out? Naruto asked. Yes, but Kazekage-sama used his sand to protect his village against the enemy's explosives. Unfortunately, it's believed his very efforts were what led to him being captured, as the Akatsuki used the lull after his training manipulations to attack, their escort explained, an infuriated scowl on his face. Naruto smiled softly at the sound of Gaara protecting his village. It sounded like he took his words to heart from the Chunin exams. When they made it to the Kazekage's office, apparently Baki was enacting. They got to the heart of the matter. What happened when the Akatsuki attacked? Kakashi asked. It was very sudden, out of nowhere in the middle of the night. Explosions sounded above the village, Kazekage-sama using his sand to block them. After talking with him and leaving the fight to Gaara, Kankuro reported the attacker was Deidara, an Iwa missing nin gifted with Bakuten. They used clay sculptures as explosives and created a giant one that might have wiped the village from the map were it not for Kazekage-sama, but after that is when Deidara struck and took him away. Kankuro went after them into the desert and presumably fought Deidara's partner, as we found him on the edge of death, his destroyed puppets around him. Has been poisoned with a concoction we have no cure for. Hess not going to make it. Baku's visible eye narrowed at his own uselessness, at his inability to save his student, and the loss of another. Before he passed out, Kankuro said Deidara's partner was Akasuna no Sasori, a missing nin of our own that we believe to have murdered the Sandaime Kazekage just before he defected. Baki relayed what he could about the enemy. The poison. I can help. I trained under Tsunade-sama, and extracting poison is one of my specialties. Sakura came forth in the hopes to save someone. Please, do what you can, Baki agreed, happy there was some hope. He led them to Kankuro's room in the Suna hospital, only to run into a bump. The Konoha no Shiroi Kiba, how dare you show your face here? An aged female voice shouted once Kakashi entered the room and a dark blur headed towards him. A tan hand intercepted the spin kick aiming for the Jounin's face, the owner pushing the revealed elderly woman back off, Aba-chan. This ain't the Shiroi Kiba. Have you gone blind already? Naruto snapped, pissed at this woman who had some sort of beef with Kakashi's father. The old woman took a closer look at Kakashi's face. Oh my, please forgive me, just the ramblings of an old woman, kaka. She attempted to laugh it off, no one in the room buying it for a second. This is one of our elders, Chiyoba-sama, I apologize for her actions. Now, if we could get to Kankuro. Baki brushed over Chiyo's actions, wanting to get Kankuro help as soon as he could. Oh Baki-kun, you brought Konoha Shinobi in to help. Have we really needed to resort to that? And what can this little girl do that I cold? That boy won't make it if you put him in her hands, Chiyo commented scathingly. Chiyo-ba-sama, Sakura-san has been trained by Tsunade-sama, Baki countered simply, knowing that would give her all she needed to know. You, girl, you've been trained by that slug girl? Chiyo asked Sakura almost accusatorily. What, you got a beef with Bachan, too? Naruto asked with a scowl, already not liking this lady. Yes, I suppose you could say I have a beef with her, that little upstart thinks she's so great just because she's created a cure for every poison I could throw at her, and now she's trained her own upstart HMPH. And I still don't like that we brought Konoha in to clean up our mess, Suna business should remain Suna business, and other villages have no right to stick their noses in it. Chiyo ranted in her old ways. Whether you like it or not, Konoha and Suna are allies, lady, so we're expected to come help each other. If you don't like it, you can just go fuck off, we're here to stay, so deal with it. Naruto metaphorically butted heads with the Suna elder, to gobsmacked expressions all around. Oh Kami, Naruto, did you just start an international incident? Sakura mentally lamented in horror. Chiyo took a moment to compose herself after the verbal lashing, and instead of scowling and responding just as heatedly, she began laughing, kekekekekekeki, I like you boy. No one's had the guts to talk to me like that in ages. All these sycophantic councilmen seeking to appease me and Ebizuani-san, tell me, what is your name? She asked with a smile, throwing everyone off at her personality change. You Uzumaki Naruto, the blonde acquiesced confusedly, while Baki pulled Sakura aside to treat Kankuro. Ah, Uzumaki, I remember those folk, very nice, you remind me a lot of them, darn shame about them, though, Chiyo frowned in remembrance, Suna was Konoha's ally even back then, and thus Uzashio's, so they also felt sorrow at their destruction. Tell me, do you know of an Uzumaki Kushina? You remind me of her the most, you even have her round face, are you her son? She asked, tilting her head as she noticed the similarities. Yeah, Kushina was my Kasan. Naruto responded, smiling at the memory of meeting his mother. Ah, I thought so. I liked her, she was a spunky little thing, she carried around this flaky boy, though, whose name escapes me at the moment. Chiyo scratched her head as she tried to remember the boy's name. Naruto and Kakashi both broke into cold sweats at the subject of the blonde's father. You must been her teammate or something, Naruto offered lamely. Yes, that must be it, now that I think about him, he looked wholly unremarkable, anyway, Chiyo commented with a shrug, causing both men to sigh in relief. Amazing, you did it. Baku's voice alerted them to the scene happening beside them, turning, they saw Sakura with her hair tied back in a moderately cute fashion, holding a globule of purple liquid within a sphere of green chakra, apparently having extracted the poison. Way to go, Sakura-chan. Naruto cheered with a grin, drawing a bashful blush from the girl. In any other situation, Sakura would merely say it wasn't a big deal, but of course, this was a big deal, so she merely took the praise, depositing the poison in a vial. She rescanned Kankuro and took out the rest, that should be all of it, hell wake up in an hour or so, just fine, in the meantime, I'll be working on an antidote for the poison, since we're probably going after them, right? She asked, turning to Kakashi. Yes, we'll be going after the Akatsuki to procure Gaara, try and drum up that antidote as fast as you can, Kakashi advised, receiving a nod. HMPH, I still don't think Konoha should be meddling in Suna affairs, but I'll come with you to help, I may be old, but I still have some fight in me, Chiyo offered. Thank you. Naruto responded confusedly. Okay, we'll set out once Sakura finishes her antidote. Which direction did Kankuro go where he encountered Sasori? The environment is too arid for my hounds to track anything, so we'll have to settle for that, Kakashi pointed out with a frown. Wait, I think I can do it, Naruto pointed out. Alien? Kakashi asked with a flat tone. Alien, the blonde parroted with a grin. Chiyo looked between the two and merely shrugged off the oddness of this blonde, going over and bringing them the bit of cloth Kankuro managed to get from the puppet master. Will this suffice? She asked. Naruto took it and brought it to his face, the area around his nose turning orange as his nose shrank to near non-existence, but faint signs of nostrils were visible when he took in the scent. Yeah, I got a scent, Vulpamincers are some of the best trackers, think of them as super Inyazuka Ninkin, he offered an analogy. Incredible, is that some new jutsu Konoha created or a clan technique your mother left? Chiyo asked, interested in this Vulpamincer technique. I guess you could say it's a technique of my own creation, Naruto offered evasively, thankfully getting her to drop the subject as they waited on Sakura. 20 minutes later. With a bit of help from Chio, Sakura managed to create 3 vials of an antidote that would provide them immunity for 3 minutes. With that, what remained of Team 7 and Chio left the village, the blonde leading the way as he followed Sasura's trail, which he remarked smelled like wood, metal, and various herbs. The scent led the 4 of them east, toward Kawa no Kuni, where the sand gave way to forests. Entering a clearing, they came face to face with someone they would have never expected, considering the identities of Suna's attackers. Uchiha Itachi, Kakashi identified with a glare. "Hello, Naruto-kun," Itachi's blank gaze zeroed in on the Jinchuriki. Naruto was silent, merely glaring back at the man who started Sasuke on his path to darkness. He may not care about Sasuke's plight anymore, but this was the guy that started it all. As far as he was concerned, suddenly, the blonde felt a pulse in his mind, and he noticed red tribal markings began forming on his hands. The sign of one of the alien species' abilities passively activating in the face of certain stimuli. Like an illusion. Naruto noticed his teammates charge at Itachi and start fighting the air. Guess he had them under Jinjutsu. Before he could even split himself, Itachi spoke up. "Wait, Naruto-kun, I just want to talk," he said with an even tone that slightly pissed Naruto off. "And why should I listen to anything you have to say? You're just an Akatsuki asshole who wants to kill me for my Bijuu," Naruto responded bitterly, not revealing anything in the way of his relationship with his tenant. "I'm not here to talk to you about the Kyuubi, I just want to talk about my brother. I understand that, because of you, he is now confined to Konoha, bereft of chakra and the Sharingan. I'm surprised you allowed it to happen, considering he is your best friend," Itachi commented airily. "The hell he is, what kind of best friend shoves a fistful of lightning through you twice? What kind of best friend would defect from his home village for the sake of power, knowing full well he's going to some creepy fuck that wants his body? What kind of best friend is the most arrogant prick possibly in all of existence?" Naruto pointed out with a fierce scowl. With each rhetorical question, Itachi's neutral expression went more and more down until he had a light scowl. "I see, I fought to keep Sasuke alive and they turn him into that. No matter, as long as the result is the same, I can still achieve resolution. It'll just need to find some way to unseal Sasuke's chakra and Sharingan, reaching a decision." Itachi brought his hands together into a single seal, Kaiten. Kakakyu no Jutsu. Naruto quickly brought his hands together at the wrists, palms forward as small spouts formed in them, Suiton. Suryudan no Jutsu. Konoha, Hokage's tower. Senjutsunade was enjoying a nice break from her paperwork, taking the daily hourly saucer of sake, without Shizune griping at her to boot. Her serenity came crashing down as a cat mask Anbu suddenly appeared before her, causing her to freak out and haphazardly attempt to hide the bottle away. Okage-sama, urgent news. Uchiha Sasuke has disappeared from his home. Thanks for watch here.